Hi everyone, welcome to Gadgets with Gurman. Today we have a really exciting special episode, one that I've been excited for a while. It's been long in the making. This is my good friend AJ from iCracked, and what we're going to do is tear open some iPhones today. We have an iPhone 8 Plus and an iPhone 8. I know AJ and his team from iCracked were in line this morning at the Apple Store in Palo Alto. Did you see Tim Cook there?
Yes, we did.
Saw Tim Cook there, and we're very grateful to be able to do this live, and we'll have a time-lapse video later on about this. And iCracked, if you break your phone or you need it fixing, they'll come to you and they'll fix it. So check out their website for that. But today, not going to be fixing iPhones. We're going to be tearing them open and seeing the guts about what's inside. And please send in your questions on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, wherever you're watching this, and we'll answer them either for me or for AJ about the iPhone 8, the 8 Plus, the future iPhone 10, any of the new Apple gear. We'll take your questions, and if you have any questions for AJ and iCracked about the teardown process, we're here. So why don't we zoom in into the monitor and rip these open, and I'll step to the side and take some questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk everyone through this teardown.
Awesome. So we're going to be unboxing both phones and taking off the screens and checking out the insides of the phones. And so part of what we're really excited about with these new models are wireless charging. So we're going to be looking at the components that allow you to do wireless charging, as well as fast charging, which is supposed to be up to 50% faster when charging your devices. So in order to start, we actually have to remove two of these bottom screws. They're called pentalobe screws, and we have to use a specialized screwdriver. So we're going to be taking out these two screws, and I will be showing you guys how to open a phone. And if you don't know what iCracked is, you can think of us as Uber for iPhone repair. And in about 600 cities around the U.S., you put in a request, and our technicians come to your home, office, or coffee shop, and will fix the device on site. So it's basically an on-demand repair company, and so we do this thousands of times a day, and I'm excited to get in here. So we've removed the two bottom screws. We're going to use this specialized tool to take off the screen. So it's two suction cups right here, and then we're going to lift it, and you're going to hear the adhesive start to come off a little bit. So let's see if we can get into this. Mark, do we have any questions?
Let's see. I think we have some coming in here. Yes, another question coming in here. Is wireless charging safe? Is it a fire hazard? What do you think? I'll take that one.
Yeah, you can
you play with that. So, is wireless charging a fire hazard? Only if it's a Samsung phone, I would say. But in the case,
you had to go there.
Yeah, but in case of the iPhone, I don't think there's going to be a problem. I don't think they would, release it if it was going to be a problem. Actually, let me tout next week's episode. We're going to be doing a big comparison of a bunch of different wireless chargers next week and comparing them all, and we'll jump into more detail on that. Another question, are there any available Qi chargers that do 15-watt charging? And I think you were telling me how they're going to enable the faster charging in a software update down the road. Not sure when that's coming out, but there is going to be a software update that allows for the faster charging down the road.
So from the information I have, the fastest charging you can get on the phone is about 7.5 watts,
right?
With wireless charging. So
is that with the software update?
I believe so.
So it starts with 5 out of the box, 5 watts.
Yes.
And then you can jump into 7.5 watts down the road with that software update, and then later on, you can upgrade maybe when they update the hardware to the faster one. More questions coming in here. Does iCracked fix iPads as well?
Yes, absolutely. So we do all Samsung, iPhone, and iPad models.
Right.
So it's a pretty cool service where someone comes to you. I actually started the company 7 years ago in college, and it was like one of the coolest college jobs where I'd meet people in the dorms and then fix their phones, and it's since grown to about 3,000 technicians in a couple different countries.
Right. Okay. So let's talk us through what we're looking at here right now. So what you see is AJ has opened up the phone. We have the two parts separated, and you have the battery right there. And how many milliamp is that battery? It's a bigger battery, right? Or a smaller battery?
So it's a smaller battery. It's about 10.28 watt hours.
Right.
One of the things that's interesting on both the 8 and the 8 Plus model is the battery capacity is about 7% less than the 7, but they say that there's much more optimization, so it should be comparable to the 7 being about 7% smaller. So now that we have this opened up, I can go over the components.
Right.
So we can see the vast majority, about 60% of the internal volume is the battery.
You can see that here.
This is actually really interesting. So this is called the Taptic Engine. That's what vibrates when you press the home button. So that like soft click is actually the Taptic Engine giving you force feedback. And then we're gonna get into the camera and then the A11 Bionic chip right there. But first I'm gonna disconnect the Touch ID portion right here. And then I'll disconnect the battery as well, because that's generally the first thing we have to do. So
and let's zoom in. Let's take a zoom in so we can get a closer look at inside the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is the back of the LCD, and then you have your front-facing camera, ear speaker, and home button right here, which is the Touch ID integrated. So now that I've disconnected the battery, we're actually going to remove it. So we can see that the battery comes out right here. And the really interesting thing, if you can see this black circle right here,
why don't we take a closer look at the battery? There's people asking about how the battery looks like. Let's zoom in a little bit more on the battery. Hold it up there. Yeah, so that's the Apple battery. You see the Apple logo there.
And so we can see that there's one connection. It's fairly light, and it's generally not user replaceable. Unless you have access to like high quality batteries to do replacements. We actually do the replacements on these. So in 2 years, when you're starting to lose battery capacity, our iTechs can come actually do that replacement. So right under the battery is the wireless Qi charging. It's spelled QI but pronounced Qi. And so this pad is a inductive coil that will actually take a oscillating, alternating current and turn it into direct current to the logic board to actually charge the battery, which is awesome.
And that's what allows for the wireless charging.
Yes.
Right.
And so what we're going to be doing now is switching screwdrivers to what's called a tri-wing driver. It's a proprietary screw head, and we're going to be removing the touch panel and LCD, and then we can keep getting in here. What are some other questions coming in, Mark?
People are wondering what happens if they try to do this themselves at home. Would you recommend that?
So I mean,
that's how you're biased here.
Yeah, so that's how we actually got started, was just like being a tinkerer and DIYers. We've had about 100,000 people apply to be a technician with us in the last year.
Wow.
And so we are always looking for tinkerers and DIYers and people that...
100,000 people, that's a lot.
No, it's crazy.
Wow.
We generally accept about 1% to 2% of those that apply, and then we'll provide training, but it is safe
Tougher than Stanford.
Yeah, it is, and more fun than Stanford.
Yeah. So what are we poking at right there? Is that the motherboard?
So this is actually the cable connecting your front-facing camera and your proximity sensors. The proximity sensor is when you put your phone up to your face and it turns the screen off automatically.
Right.
As well as ear speakers. So I'm going to be disconnecting these guys.
Now, internally, how is this looking, someone's asking, in comparison to the 6 and the 7, which basically have the same basic design as this model?
Yes. So internally, the 7 and the 8 actually look almost identical.
Wow.
What you're really seeing the main difference is the charging pad and then this glass back, which we didn't cover. So this is a rear glass panel that can break, and there's aluminum and steel that are holding it in place.
That's the gold one, right?
Yes,
that looks really nice.
It does. It feels nice, and it's actually about 10 grams heavier than its predecessor, the 7 Plus.
Do you think that's because of the wireless charging?
I actually think it's the glass and a little bit of the wireless charging.
Right.
So what we'll do right now is we'll look at the fast charging port, which is right here. And
is that an actual different component?
Yes. Okay. So it's a different component, and they used injection molded plastic hooked on there, and then you can see the Taptic Engine.
They even have the logos in there.
Yes.
In the actual
and then the A11 Bionic chip, which is supposed to be their flagship chip. It's one of the fastest smartphone chips in the market right now.
And that's one with the neural engine, the AI chip
yes.
that we wrote about.
And so that's actually under this shielding right here. But let's actually get into the camera, because the camera's is pretty interesting.
And those are better cameras optimized for AR, and he's opening the Plus right now, so that's the dual camera, both with, or on the 10, they both have optical image or video stabilization, but on this one it's just still one camera with stabilization and one regular digital, right?
Yes. And the photography on this is just supposed to be absolutely phenomenal.
Right. We'll take some pictures when we get ours and test it and take it through its paces.
And compare them. That'd be awesome. So we just removed shielding on the camera, and we can see that this is the dual lens system. So it's a little bit larger than the predecessor.
And that's one of the more expensive components in the phone, right?
Yes. And what most people may not realize is Apple's actually the largest camera company in the world, because they ship hundreds of millions of cameras in their products each year, and they take it very, very seriously. So the people that are really serious about great photography, I highly, highly recommend the 8 Plus.
Right. So what are you poking at now? Still a camera, trying to get it out of the casing?
Yes. So I'm removing the shielding right here, so we can see that. So we can see now that the dual cameras. So
and
you
let's
can
zoom in so we can take a closer look at that.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can see the two cameras side by side right here, and we can flip that over. And Mark, do you want to talk about why there's two cameras for?
Right. So there's one regular lens and one telephoto lens. They both are 12 megapixel sensors still. One of them is like the main camera in any phone, and then a regular iPhone 7, 6, or 8. Or the iPhone 10, and then the other one is a camera that zooms in. So what this allows you to do is have a manual zoom in 2x versus a digital zoom in. So that means you can go in, twofold into the shot without losing any clarity, because it's not using software, it's using the actual secondary lens. It also lets you do the bokeh effect when you take a picture, so it sort of blurs the background. It looks really nice, the portrait mode. And this one has portrait lighting as well, right?
Yes. And so that is accomplished through the True Tone flash, which I'm sure you can talk about.
And that's an updated flash, or is it the same component?
So it's actually an updated flash, and so Apple has a technology called True Tone, which adjusts the lighting based on the scene that you're shooting in. And so they also put that technology on their LCD themselves. So your screen is actually going to start adapting to your surroundings based on the colors that it's displaying, and that's through their True Tone software as well.
Right, and how does the quality of the camera, sort of differentiate from last year's model? It's basically the portrait lighting, the lenses are a bit better, the clarity is a bit better, and all that, right?
Yes. So a lot of the updates are actually through their software. Right. So as you mentioned, the actual specs are still the same as last year, but the photos turn out much better because they have much better image processing accomplished through the A11 Bionic chip.
Got it, using the AI and all that.
Yes. So now that we've taken this down, let's get into the iPhone 8, and we can look at the comparisons of on the insides if that work.
Right. So let's move those to the side, and you can see, just so much stuff going on there. So why do they shield the motherboard? Why is there covering on top of that?
So that's actually a great question. So the first reason is it's a great thermal insulator to transfer heat away from the chips. The second is for electrostatic discharge. So you want to protect the chips from any static electricity that may be coming across. And then it's also it's just protection from bumps and hitting conductive parts of the frame.
So would there be any risk of ripping off the shell on there?
So you would have to heat that up and grab some tweezers for that.
Interesting. Okay, so let's move these to the side here, and let's rip apart the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is also has a glass back. It's somewhat hard to see on the difference between the glass and then jet black from last year, but you can definitely, it feels different, and as we mentioned, it's about 10 grams heavier than its predecessor. And so we're going to be opening this up and then comparing the insides of this to the former model.
And this is the $700 base model one?
This is. So they
You wouldn't go for the 256 to tear it open?
I don't understand the need for 256 gigs on a phone, given all the cloud services I use.
Right.
But
so what are you going to get for yourself?
I'll probably be moving to the X
when it. The X or the 10?
The 10. What about you?
Probably the 10 as well, but probably the 256.
Yeah, the crazy thing is when you start to factor in pricing on the iPhone 10 with AppleCare and
so what are we doing here? We're ripping open the...
So this is called a IsClack tool. So it's dual-sided suction cups, and they call it IsClack because the Italian inventor, who's a good friend of ours, said that the sound when you open up a phone, the sound that the phone makes is clack. And so we're using it to open it like as if it's a clamshell. And so we're going to be getting into there momentarily.
Cool. Now, is there a difficulty difference between popping open the small one and the big one?
So the main difficulty actually comes from the adhesive. So Apple certifies their phones to what's called IP67, which is a dust and waterproof rating. And on the last generation of phone, you can actually take it swimming or in the shower if you're listening to music or weird. And so the adhesive we can see on the 8 model, it follows this perimeter.
8 Plus, right?
This is the 8 Plus. And so you can see the white adhesive right here, and then it's actually a dual type adhesive, and we have black adhesive following this perimeter, which actually keeps out the dust and the water, and as well as all the ports are
Now, to the best
sealed.
of your knowledge, is the adhesive any stronger than last year's models, the 7 and 7 Plus, or is it about the same?
It looks comparable.
Comparable.
So I'm gonna pop this open.
And what AJ is doing is using this tool to get the front glass off in order to get into the phone itself. It takes a couple of times because of how strong the adhesive is, but he has this special tool to get it open here.
What are some other questions we have?
Some people are asking about differences between the 8 Plus and the regular 8. Besides the camera, so it's basically the dual lens camera. One can do the bokeh effect, the deeper zoom, so you can scroll all the way to, I believe, 10 times zoom or 8 times zoom, depending off if you're in regular pictures or video. Also the bokeh effect, so the portrait mode where you can sort of blur the background. The processor is pretty much the same and whatnot. You want to go back to the 8 Plus? We can talk a little bit more about what we have in there. It looks like we're having some trouble opening up the 8.
What is the bokeh effect? Can you explain that?
So I take a picture of you, and it uses this software algorithm to sort of cut you out, and then it cuts out the background as well, separates the two. It blurs that background, then it puts you back in it. So sort of like I take a picture of you and sort of blurs the background behind you. It looks really nice, sort of like a high-end DSLR, like a camera.
Wait, that's amazing.
Does the same thing. You haven't used this?
No,
the bokeh effect? What do you use now?
So right now I'm on a iPhone 7 Plus.
Okay, so you do have the feature.
I use portrait mode quite a bit.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep,
portrait
absolutely.
mode. Portrait mode. There we go.
Right. So we have the iPhone 8. So this is the smaller model opened up, so we can put it side by side to compare them. We got the adhesive removed, so we can. It's hard to see on the contrast, but there's adhesive that surrounds that perimeter. If you are going to have your phone repaired, make sure that you try to use adhesives to get that dust and waterproof rating back up. But I'm going to be disconnecting the battery, and then we can kind of look at the difference in sizes.
Right. So highlights that we've seen so far for those just joining us, we've torn open the 8 and the 8 Plus. We have them side by side here. AJ from iCracked is going through them. And you can see slightly smaller batteries, and there's a smaller battery in comparison to the 8 Plus and the 8 as well, so you'll get quite a bit better battery life if you go for one of the Plus models. There's also a Qi charger in there, and that's for the wireless charging. We're going to have an episode next week that goes into the charging with a little bit more detail, comparing a bunch of the latest chargers on the market for wireless Qi charging. We saw the dual lens camera system on the 8 Plus. We have the single lens on the 8, and right now, AJ, you're taking out the battery?
So I'm disconnecting the battery.
Disconnecting the battery, and then I want to show a size comparison between the batteries and the different milliamp hours to show, the more juice you're able to store in there, the longer the battery life is going to be.
So now that we have the battery disconnected, we're going to be disconnecting the display assembly as well. And so just for size comparison, you can see that this battery looks probably about 40% larger. So this is the 8 Plus battery that we've removed, and we can see the iPhone 8 battery right there. It's its smaller, younger brother. We can also see the Taptic engine. So we went over this. That's what.
Let's zoom into the engine because I don't think I want people who are just joining us to see that. So it's at the bottom of the phone.
Yes. So we can see that I'll lift it up a little bit closer. So we can see that the Taptic Engine right here, that's actually what gives you that force feedback when you're clicking the home
so
button.
when you hold press into an icon for like 3D touch or the pressure sensitive
Yes.
home button as well in these ones. There's going to also be a Taptic Engine in the 10, right? Just for regular 3D touch stuff?
Yes, there is. And so you can see the Taptic Engine is much smaller on the iPhone 8, which is probably...
That's interesting. I was going to ask you, in your usage, because I know you play with all these phones,
Yes.
Is it less powerful? Like, does it feel less powerful when you're using the smaller one?
I haven't noticed a difference, but maybe I should pay more attention to that.
You should. Let us know. Yeah.
I'm actually really excited for the show that you guys are doing comparing the charging. I think that's going to be
Yeah,
that
should be a good one. Good follow-up to this. So when you crack open the battery, and let's zoom out so we can get a better look at what AJ is doing. I want to compare the size of the different Qi chargers in there.
Yes. Hold on.
So cracking out the battery. Are the batteries usually this difficult to get out?
So
this
is actually this is going to be interesting because we're going to have to remove these adhesives. So there's 4 tabs that's somewhat difficult to see right here that you actually peel back and then pull them out. So we're gonna we can do that right now.
Now you tear open phones from Samsung and other phone makers and all that all the time too, or is it just iPhones?
So we do just about every flagship phone.
So I'm curious because Apple, their fit and finish is one of their the reasons they're such a premium brand, such a prime purchase for a lot of people. How does the insides? Because they sometimes talk about they're very happy about how the insides look that nobody ever sees. How do the insides of these devices compare to, like, let's say the insides of a Samsung or someone else's phone? Is it really indeed cleaner and better put together internally?
So that's a great question. So you can, if you put a Samsung S8 up to an iPhone 8, you can see
and let's zoom in and take a closer look at that. What's going on?
So you can see the design ethos of each company. You can see kind of how their engineers think and where they place products, how the products connect with one another. The iPhones, for example, they generally they look like aesthetically more pleasing, and I think that just comes from the Apple's design beliefs, where it needs to be as pretty on the inside as it is on the outside.
That is very cool to see.
So I'm removing the adhesive strips, so we have 1 down and 3 to go. So you can see that we're pulling out the adhesive that holds the battery on. So that's coming out.
Now, what is the purpose of the adhesive strips?
So that actually holds the battery in place, so it doesn't move around when
Okay.
you're moving the phone around.
Now let's zoom out, and so we can get a wider shot. And let's compare the insides here when you get that other adhesive out.
Yep.
Between the two. And this is actually interesting. You can see here how this battery, I mean, you can just see the size of this thing in comparison. So this is the plus size battery. This is my plus phone. This is the 7 Plus here. And you can just see the size. And let's zoom in here so you can see that. Look how much of the battery the phone is, right, in terms of overall volume, in terms of size. I mean, obviously, it's very, very thin. It's, it's not paper thin, but maybe, I don't know, it's 10 to 15, strips of paper you can see there, but it does take up a lot of the volume. You can also see that it's time for me to get a new phone because of all the scratches on the jet black, but that's what the iPhone 10 is for in November. Let's zoom back out here.
Has Apple confirmed a ship date on that?
November 3rd, and pre-order is October 27th. I was actually telling someone this morning that I can't wait till November 3rd.
Are you going to camp out with me?
Yeah, sure. If we come back here and do another teardown, I'll camp out with you. But we're not tearing open my iPhone 10. That's just for me.
That's amazing. What size capacity are you going to
Probably go for the 256. I mean, right now I'm using over 100 gigabytes. It's interesting they removed the 128. If they kept the 128 configuration, you
probably would have gone with that.
Probably would have gone with the 128. But I know they're still selling the 128 in some of the older iPhone models, and we have some more questions coming in here. How do these cameras compare to some of the other phones on the market? And for those just joining us, we're tearing open these iPhones here with AJ from iCracked. And if you have any questions, send them in. What capacity are you going to get? We're just talking about how Apple split the new phones into 64 gig and 256 gig configurations. What are you going to get? What do you think of the iPhone 10's price? Are any of you planning on buying the 8 and 8 Plus? Trying to understand, what kind of people are in these audience? Are we all early adopters here? Are we people who are willing to wait for the 10? I mean, I'm sure there's people watching this who probably are going to get both. Tell me what you think. I'm curious to hear, and we'll talk about that. And so you can see what AJ's doing, taking off some of the adhesive from the battery in order to pop it out, and then we're going to compare the size of the batteries. So keep sending those questions in the meantime.
Okay, so that
for us here. So what's going on here? We have the battery almost out. There we go. As you can see, it's popping out.
So
there we go.
So I don't want to damage the battery, so we're gonna get in here a little bit more.
And obviously these things are difficult, but when we got out the Plus battery, we were able to get it out pretty perfectly. Obviously there's more volume and more area to work with on this one. Let's see. So what tool is that you're using to pop out that battery?
So this is a iSesamo tool it comes from the name of like Open Sesame. And so we manufacture these with a partner. I don't actually want to damage the battery, so I'm going to hand it to one of our master technicians. See if he can do it.
Okay, let's pop back this 8 Plus internal. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Maybe, are we able to put the phone back together?
Yes.
Let's do that. I think a lot of people would be curious.
Awesome.
Let's put back this 8 Plus.
All right, so we are going to put the camera shielding back on right now, which for those that missed it, here's the dual cameras.
Oh, and one person is saying they're actually watching this on a gold iPhone 8 Plus.
Wait, that's amazing.
That we have some people chiming in. So the person who bought the 8 Plus, why did you get the 8 Plus? Why aren't you waiting for the 10? Are you going to get both? What configuration did you get? We're really curious to know.
Would people get both, do you think?
Oh, I'm sure there's people who would get both.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah. I remember when the iPhone 4 came out, they had the black version, and 9 months later, they had the white one. I was one of those people who got both.
Did you?
And then
That's
the
amazing.
4S came out, 3 months after that? So that was me.
Absolutely. So we have the battery. Our master technician just popped it off, so you can see that adhesive.
And let's zoom in here and take a closer look at the batteries. AJ, let's show the size difference between the two.
Absolutely. So we have the iPhone 8 Plus battery right here, and then we have the iPhone 8 battery right here. And then they are both able to be charged via the Lightning port or the wireless charging, which you can see are these two black pads on these devices. And so this is a 3.82 volt, about 10.3 watt hour battery, and this is a 3.8 volt, about 6.9 watt hour battery. So
let's tie this thing up. Let's put the 8 Plus back together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And show people, your magic.
Yep. So we're going to be reconnecting the screen. So I'm going to move the 8 out of the.
And let's zoom out here so we can get a little wider view with that.
Mark, we should do a teardown where you're the one taking these apart.
Yeah.
I can walk you through it.
No, I'll leave that to the professionals. I'll break news. You take open some phones and fix them.
Have you gotten your hands on on one of the new Apple Watches?
No, but you know what? Maybe we should tear that open next time.
Yeah, apparently there's the LTE connectivity is running into some issues.
Yeah, I saw that. It comes down to this bug where it tries to connect to unverified Wi-Fi networks, but most people that have been using it haven't experienced those issues.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get my hands on some of these later today after this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Apple TV, the iPhone, and the watch. I've been preparing for this show and some other new stuff going on, but I will try those out, and follow me on Twitter. It's @MarkGurman. I will be keeping you all abreast of my usage of the new LTE watch and the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and the new Apple TV over the weekend and into next week. And hopefully we can have a great episode on Monday where we're going to talk about the different wireless chargers stay tuned.
Are you guys going to do tests on that?
We're going to do tests. We're going to open all of them. And we're going to, jump between how quickly it takes for the phone to start charging when it gets on the pad, the length of the power cord, whatever the minutia.
Wait, that's amazing.
Well, the minutia of the wireless chargers, and a lot of people have iPhone reviews and such, so this will be a bit different. People are asking, how do I take advantage of the best feature of the new phone, which is the wireless charging? So we're going to compare all of those tools.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You should watch. So let's zoom in. I want everyone to see this because that's pretty amazing.
So I actually haven't sealed it back up because I wanted to show that that you can still power the screen. With it open, but I'm going to be popping it in right here.
So basically what AJ did in summary is he tore this thing apart, he took the battery out, he took out the cameras, he was messing around with it inside, and he was able to seal it back together, and it's fully working. Now, will Touch ID still work if it was set up on this phone?
Yes, it will.
so it doesn't affect the Touch ID. It's working perfectly,
Yep.
right?
Yep. It seems to have been a good teardown.
Good. Well, good job, AJ.
Yeah, awesome.
And thank you so much. And let's turn it back on so people can take another look and see. And AJ, I really appreciate this. This was great. It worked out well.
Yep,
We tore open the 8 and the 8 Plus. And we'll be back in November, right, to tear open the 10?
Absolutely.
I think that'll be great. So thank you for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at Mark Gurman. Please subscribe to our new Gadgets with Gurman Facebook watch page.
It is awesome.
Thank you.